we go. Boom. I'm gonna give you a link. If you can, just before we get to it, just spam it in chat every once in a while, if you remember to, or I remember to.
Oh, is it the votes?
Yeah, it's the votes. Basically, I intentionally kept it for today. And by that I mean I didn't have it prepared, and also I think that it works better with what we're doing anyway to have it today.
And then... So we're doing first vote... Or votes for all the first round of games, and then just voting on who we think will win the champ.
Yep, and then you pick
That's
the
probably a
winner.
good way of doing it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any better way, because I can't, like, who wins this
All the
pairing,
different-
who wins this pair. No,
Yeah.
this is better,
Yeah.
I think.
And I think that's a reasonable way to do it.
Ooh, there's a team in Platinum without any votes yet. And it's not the one that you would think would have no votes. Just gonna throw that one out there.
Is it Shmeh?
No, Shmaz got votes.
Oh,
Well, if you're
is
gonna do
it-
this by process of elimination, I'm not gonna do it. But like,
Oh, okay. I was like,
'Cause-
well, at least they're playing a hard one, you know, and they're pretty high ranked.
because like the moment that I do that, you know, somebody goes and votes for him, and I don't necessarily
Oh,
need
as
that.
you do.
Like,
You're right. My bad.
you've got a fan in chat. Your mic is on, homie G. Yeah, I know.
You are Mike is on homie G.
I don't know if you saw the message. Player John wants you to acknowledge him.
Of course. How could I not notice the player John?
He calls you senpai, which might be a little strange, but like, get that.
That's
weeb-
just the
weeb
type
shit
of relationship we have. I don't need your judgment here, Maris.
Thoughts on MSI plans? I still think the concept of MSI plans is kind of troll, and also the crowd is like super dead, and it's really uninteresting, which is disappointing because they're playing some decent League of Legends. So I don't know.
There definitely been some standout players, like fucking Ruin. I don't know what team he plays for, but I saw him play Jason just like fucking shit on an entire game, like full build at 25 minutes. It's honestly insane.
Yeah, and this group's super interesting, especially with Bombers and Isurus winning their last games. So it's like it's still kind of up in the air going into game 2, even though it could have just been, you know, the top 2 teams basically.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool if they give people a shot at, you know, having a shot at MSI, but for the most part, I don't think that any of these teams are going to impact the actual main event.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. The ones that played today are the ones that have the chance to play TL in the first elimination game thing. Also, like, the margin for error for TL is, like, you can fuck up a lot and still make it. You just have to be the top 3 out of the 4 teams that manage to get there.
Yeah, no, I think TL probably has a pretty good shot.
I don't know. MSI is just kind of meh for me. Like, the only standout moment that I can think of from any MSI, there's 2, I guess. One was fucking CLG dabbing on stage, and then, you know, imploding in the semifinal. And then the other one was fucking Pawn just counterpicking Faker with Morgana in the blind pick game. And
Yeah,
they
that was
got rid of
pretty-
the blind pick, so that's never going to happen
Wait,
again.
it wasn't even blind, was it?
Yeah, it was.
I don't think it was blind. I think they baited it out. I think they left it open and then immediately locked in Morg right afterwards.
I thought it was blind game 5.
I don't think so, because blind game 5 has only ever been an OGN thing.
I thought they made it the first MSI as well, because they didn't know how serious it was going to be or something.
I don't think that's the case, but if that fits your narrative better, we can go with that.
How do I think Team Liquid will do in groups if they make it? So, if you think about Team Liquid, what their expectation is, you got to think like 4th or 5th, realistically.
Realistically, bro, you think that we're worse than
I think that we're worse than
G2?
I think that we're
Come
worse than
on.
IG. I think that we're worse than SKT. I think that we're probably worse than G2. So yeah, fourth would be acceptable. If they do higher than that, that's great. Fifth, I think, is getting a little troll because they'd be below Flash Wolves or one of the wildcard teams. Anyway, our timer ran out.
Okay.
Let me turn on screen share during the middle of the intro. What a boss. Anyway, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second to last podcast of the split. My name, as usual, is Meristematic, and with me is Akedo.
So you changed your name then since last week?
No, I'm not Joey.
Okay. I wonder if 10 top laners is an available name. That would be that'd be pretty
Yeah,
spicy.
if I make it to top 10 though, I've improved by probably 5 or so since the last time we checked. So that'd be worth noting. Anyway, today we got a huge show basically. So we're gonna do a pretty quick quarterfinal recap. Uh, Basically, you guys have seen all the VODs. You can go watch them. You don't really need extra analysis from Kato and I. So, um, yeah, it'll be pretty quick. But then we'll do a land preview that'll be a little bit longer. Try to break down who we think is going to win. And then after that, the moment you've all been waiting for will be the regular season awards. Almost all of them will be as voted by uh, team captains in the leagues, as well as some various admins. And then there will be a special award that we'll get to a little bit later on with our special guest joining us. So, yeah,
Excitement.
excitement. So, our gold quarterfinals results, um,
Diamond?
diamond.
You
I
know, we
said
played like
gold.
we were gold, but come on, man. They
Yeah.
gotta be like that.
GGL took down Iron 5 2-1 and Landsneck with a 2-1 over Team Fish Taco. Two really close series. We're gonna start though. We'll go ahead and just rip the bandage off to start off with for you. But GGL taking down I5 in a 3-game series. We saw it was played really late Thursday night, and then it got
Yeah.
broadcast on Saturday.
I think we started after midnight. So it pretty much was Thursday by the time it actually started. I think it went until almost 3 a.m. Um, Tons of fun though. Pretty good series overall. You know, GGL had to bring in a ringer to try and beat us, and unfortunately for us, we just didn't play the best League of Legends that we have this year, and they came out on top.
Yeah, I will say Iron 5 had definite opportunities in all 3 games, was ahead. I think a pretty significant chunk in game 3, if I'm not completely misremembering. Um, so a little bit disappointing from the 3 seed then to get knocked out by the number 6 seed, but um, it does, help push our narratives that we've been pushing all split going into land. So that'll be kind of
Yeah, the
exciting.
narratives win in the end.
The plot armor was too thick for GGL, and so they made it in. Uh, yeah, who do you think was the standout performer for GGL?
You know, I think Koala had a pretty good series. Mortally Divine, who has been a really big performer for them all split, kind of had a really quiet series. He didn't do a whole lot. Game two, his Swain was pretty good. But outside of that, he just kind of had a quiet series. I'd say the big performer for them really was the AD carry that they brought in to bolster their lineup. Especially game two, they played entirely through him with Tristana just rotating him around, taking everything. And then game three, they literally built a composition around him, and he was sort of the big carry for them.
Yeah. Anyway, what I'm linking in the chat, by the way, is the land predictions. If you guys want to go ahead and fill that out, we'll go over them a little bit later on in the show. But basically, you're going to pick the winners of the semifinals and then pick an overall winner for each division. Um, yeah. So don't be too scared of that link. That's all it is. It's also in the general chat in the GRLCS Discord. I gave it to Ikedo to spam, and then I realized that you can't actually post any links because you're not a mod. So don't do that. Might get banned.
I'm
Um,
gonna get banned from the GetRec Twitch chat. Feels bad.
our other diamond semi or quarter, excuse me. I haven't had enough sleep in the last week or so. But yeah, Landsneck able to survive the Team Fish Taco onslaught, and Yeah, I barely remember this series. Honestly, it was the very first one early on Tuesday, and um, I guess I do remember Team Fish Taco had Game 3 in their grasp, and then Jack Love's Lamp popping off with a triple kill on Darius while he's 0-5.
Yeah, Jesus. This series was super close. And it's kind of surprising because Azuki throughout the entire series was really stomping that top lane. He really had complete and total control over it. And at the very end, you know, Jack on the Darius was able to clutch out a triple kill while 0 and 5, like you said, and they're able to just barely pull down away. Either way, I think this was a super close series, and I don't think either team should be upset with how they played.
Yeah, and so both Diamond quarterfinals going to 2-1, both of them extremely closely contested, sets us up for a LAN tournament where I don't think there's really a definite front runner coming in. I think you could make an argument for Unlucky Retribution, but we'll discuss that at a little bit more length later on.
Okay.
Yeah. So our gold results, just to start flying through them a little bit, we'll start off with TLM, just dismantling Flex 2-0.
Yeah, no, that one was not very close. TLM just sort of took care of business.
Yeah, they definitely did. Flex looked a little bit lost during these games, and TLM took every advantage of that to punch their ticket to LAN. I don't have a whole lot more to say about this one.
Yeah,
UXR, this one was even worse, honestly. I think G5 had a total of 7 kills in the series, if I remember correctly.
that sounds about right. It didn't seem particularly close, and these for the most part the games here in gold were very close with the team who was ranked higher just sort of coming out on top for the most part.
Yeah, even continuing on to our third one, Hog able to take down No Apologies handily again. Cyrene showing off a little bit on his new team, and they didn't give No Mind and Pone Star that big opportunity to carry.
Yeah, which, coming into the 0AP was the team that played everyone to 3 games. And this time around, they weren't able to get what they needed to take a game off of Hog. And yeah,
Yeah, the one series that was close, maybe the unexpected one, but Return of the Middle Sticks able to sneak past Yellow Jackets and punch their ticket.
yeah, and this one, God, I was watching this one, and I was halfway through game 3, or halfway through game 2 rather, with ROTM down 1-0. I was like, oh my God, this is over. Yellow Jackets had such a massive lead, but ROTM stayed in it. They were able to clutch out a win there, and then in game 3, they finally put ROTM Meristematic on a carry, and it was less close with them taking that one in the end.
Yeah, I always hate talking about my own team, but I was happy with the way that we bounced back. I think that we should have won game one, should have probably not been very close in game two, but go to LAN and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Um, where's our Google Vote sheet of options for where we're going? That's a good question. I thought that that was a different Google Vote sheet, so I started to read it and then realized that we were throwing shade at Hog halfway through. I'm gonna be honest.
Let's go to a barbecue place, right? If when Hog loses.
I mean, barbecue seems fitting. They have a lot of pork options.
Exactly, exactly. Thank
Um,
you.
so yeah, into our little bit longer segment here, now that we blasted through the results, our Diamond Land semifinals, which you can vote on at the link provided by Glitter and Gains. Thank you. Unlucky Retribution versus Landsneck, and Return of the Middle Sticks versus Good Game Losers. So first off, our OKLCS long stays, Unlucky Retribution and Landsneck fighting it out. Um, way back in it's week 2. It's written in black after that, apparently. In week 2, Unlucky Retribution took down Landsneck 2-0. So we can read a whole lot into that. That means Unlucky Retribution rolls during this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That said, It's really interesting because historically speaking, Unlucky Retribution is a team who plays strictly through Tien Sama, strictly through that bottom lane with, relatively controlled performances throughout the rest of the map. Whereas Landsec is extremely similar in that they play almost exclusively through Rito Torchic, with just very controlled performances everywhere else. So it's a sort of a matchup of the bottom lanes, you would think. Um,
You would
which
think that, but Unlucky Retribution with Sacred Strike has been a little bit different animal to handle. And along with DCDK stepping up, it's created this huge influx of carry potential for Unlucky Retribution. And I think, like I said just a little bit ago, I think that if you're going to pick a favorite, I think it's Unlucky Retribution going in.
I think that's probably right, especially with Sacred Strike, who has played 2 series and has popped off in every single game of both series, and is going up against Jack Loves Lamp, who hasn't looked that strong top lane, especially last week against Azuki. He really struggled in a lot of matchups, even matchups where they might generally be favored towards him early. He's falling behind in CS, he's giving up kills, and it'll be really interesting to see if he's able to weather the storm that Sacred Strike is likely to bring.
Yeah, and for Landsneck, there's questions about what roster they're even bringing. We know that Eatloaf's not going to be at LAN because it's been pretty publicly posted about. So, what do they do to fill in that gap? Do they just bring the other five on their kind of six-man rotation now? Where do they all slot in? If Doughboy is transitioning back from support to jungle, does he show any rust that way? Like, where do you think Landsneck has these opportunities now?
It's gonna be really interesting. It really just depends on who they end up bringing. Like, do they bring in Hamana to support and Doughboy goes back into the jungle? I think that the bright spot for them in all of their roster mishaps or roster swaps have been Killering in that mid lane, who on picks like Cassiopeia has just completely showed up for this team. And I think as long as they're able to secure him into the mid lane, they have a shot at, potentially having a favorable matchup on their side there. That said, DC Decay has also been an outstanding performer in that mid lane, consistently putting out damage on these control mage style picks, and I don't know. I think this is going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. The again the OKLCS matchup. So, if you had to break down the keys to victory for Unlucky Retribution, what do you think they need to do to win the whole tournament, not just necessarily this game?
Well, I think that primarily they need to get a good matchup for their top laner in Sacred Strike to make sure that he's continuing being able to build up these leads for himself in that top lane. And then just camping that bottom side and trying to get Tien and Curb Stomp a lead, who's probably the best bottom lane in the league. If they're able to consistently get them ahead, as well as get Sacred Strike um, a good matchup there in the top lane, I think that they'll definitely be set up to beat pretty much any team here.
And for Landsneck, do you think that they just need to really hit a lucky streak here, or do they have something that they can leverage to make their way through?
I think a certain amount of it is a lucky streak. I think realistically, if you're looking at all 4 teams, Lansnick is probably the team least likely to take it all. Um, that said, they definitely have the opportunity for wins coming through Rito Torchic, who's been such a great performer for their team in that AD carry position. If they're able to build some strong 2 carry compositions with him and Killering and put a lot, invest a lot into protecting them, they might be able to clutch out a few team fights and upset some teams here.
Yeah, and also worth noting from the last Diamond Land tournament, we have three returning teams. Landsneck is the only one not returning. Rest in peace, Killer Whales United.
Yeah, KWU went they moved somewhere East Coast. They went closer to waters, I suppose.
Our other semifinal is going to be our LKC semifinal between Return of the Middle Sticks and Good Game Losers, two familiar foes. Um, so yeah, GGL was able to take down Return of the Middle Sticks in week 4. A lot has changed since then, unfortunately, not for the better for Good Game Losers for the most part. And their one bounce back was defeating I5 in the quarterfinal.
And how much stock would you put in them with that win over I5? Do you think that that's enough to say that GGL are back, or do you think that it's just a fluke and they're still one of the weaker teams here.
I think that it's at least a confidence boost, if nothing else. They remember what it's like to kill that nexus in a competitive environment, and specifically for Koala, who seems to be that sort of momentum-based player. I think that that's really huge for him. Maybe not having Yabby and bringing him back in, if he can recapture some of that magic that he used to have. We used to see him just completely stomp lanes and Goomba stomp all over people with Tristan at like level 3 and get super ahead on Kaisa and Ezreal. If we see a return or even something similar to that for him, GGL could play a huge spoiler in this. If we don't, I think it's going to be rough with Koala trying to find someone who can help him carry.
Agreed, especially since GGL, has had a lot of trouble, especially in the mid lane, with Lissandra being nerfed. Mortally Divine has had a lot of trouble really finding the champion with which he can apply a lot of pressure in games. Before the nerf, it really was that Lissandra. He was so good on that. Now he hasn't really had as much impact. And I think that even more so now than before, GGL is relying so much on Koala to have a good game for Koala to pop off and get his team ahead. That said, I think that the big matchup here is in that bottom lane for GGL with Yabinda and Lord Care Bear. If they're able to take advantage of a bot lane that hasn't been that strong out of ROTM with Force Shot and Maximus, if they're able to get some advantages early, win some 2v2s, and get a lead, I think that they could really leverage that into a win. Especially if you look at the first time that these two teams met, so much of the skirmishing was around that bottom lane. There was just so much blood down there, and I think that that's going to be a major focal point if GGO wants to win.
Yeah, honestly, reflecting on that, probably my personal pick for series of the split was that ROTM GGL game. I hope that they give us just as good of a semifinal. For Return to the Middle Sticks, let's focus a little bit more on them. Do you think that they need to put all their eggs in the Tendies basket, or is there the potential for them to make some different plays and maybe look beyond GGL and at that final position?
I think, generally speaking, ROTM has won through tendies, and now would be a strange time to sort of change that or change their focus because all of their success has been through him. I think that Jack put up the interesting stat where they're undefeated in games where Tendies has a positive KD, and they haven't won a game where he has a negative KD. So I think getting him on comfort and getting him on an early skirmishing champion is really going to be a key here, especially since last time at LAN, Tendies was probably one of the best junglers coming in, and he sort of had a really quiet for lack of a better word, a really bad LAN experience. We'll see if he's able to bounce back this time around and perform to a level that we sort of expect from him.
Yeah, and if you remember last LAN, the redemption, the the big shot that killed um, Unlucky Retribution was a Varus arrow from fourth shot from out of the fog of war to steal the Baron. I think that Tendies needs to rely a little bit more on his teammates to help pick him up. I think if fourth shot can have a little bit more stable performance in the bot lane, if Demon Print can get on a champion that allows him to have some action early and can roam with Tendies and not let that burden fall exclusively on him, that I think Return to the Middle Sticks will look much better than they have the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, if they're able to get stronger performances out of the rest of their lanes, then they will be an extremely scary team to look at. Sort of like the UR effect, where UR has finally had some strong carry performances out of their mid lane, out of their top lane. If our team is able to do that as well, able to secure, pressure from somewhere else, then they could be a really scary team and could just lock this away.
All right, then let's wrap up Diamond then. Who do you have? Unlucky Retribution versus Landsnack,
Unlucky Retribution.
and Return to the Middle Sticks versus GGL.
And I'm probably gonna go with ROTM on this one. In a 2-1 series, super close, but without a Master Tier 80 carry, I think GGL is gonna have a little bit of trouble. And unless Yabienda has found the power of pro builds in the last 2 weeks, I think ROTM will be able to come out on top.
So then ROTM versus Unlucky Retribution in the final. Who do you have?
And I think that one is just such a difficult matchup for both teams. But with how strong of an upswing UR is on, I think I have to take them in a 2-1.
And then I probably should have reversed this, but third place game GGL versus Snick.
GGL versus Snek. I think I would take GGL on that one. I really do think that Snek is probably the weakest team coming in to this.
So for anybody who wants my diamond predictions for what they're worth, I think that Unlucky Retribution, Middle Sticks. Um, I think I've got Landsneck in the third place game over GGL, and then
Okay,
I'll take Unlucky Retribution in the final as well.
okay.
So we'll jump into Platinum then. We haven't talked about Platinum in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it feels like. Anyway, if we remember back that far, our number one team coming in Plat is going to be Sensei Squad versus number four Kings of Baron, and Schme will take on Oklahoma Gold Rush. So first, our 1-4 matchup. Um, Sensei Squad was able to defeat Kings of Baron back in week 3, which was the last time that Kings of Baron lost a game.
Exactly. Kings of Baron have really bounced back from a really poor start to their season, and they were able to just slide in, just clutch out, with going undefeated in the last 4 weeks, or at least they didn't, lose any series. This is sort of the story of like what might be the hottest team coming in Kings of Baron against Sensei Squad, who's probably been the most consistent team. Um, they have just played such a strong macro game as well as mechanically really are looking strong in every role. It'll be really interesting to see if Kings of Baron are able to come out with leads with Mowgli in the jungle position as they have in the last few weeks, or if Sensei Squad will be able to just sort of shut that down.
Yeah, do you worry a little bit about Sensei Squad coming in two of their last three, or actually their last two games, because week 9 was a bye, so they were 5-0, and they've lost two
Hmm.
coming in to team name here in the Meat Beats, who we'll notice are not represented at this LAN tournament.
It's definitely kind of scary for them. That said, if you're looking at them dropping losses to two teams who didn't make it, that means that they beat every single other team that did make it to this LAN. They already have the blueprints. They already know how to beat these teams. Um, I think that I don't know. The platinum standings are just so close, and every single team just seems like they could probably take games off of each other. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to bounce back, or if Kings of Baron are just gonna ride that momentum train straight through land.
Yeah, I love that all three of these tournaments are really wide open. We haven't covered gold yet, but I don't feel like there's a definitive favorite in any division. I think you could argue TLM and gold, which we'll get there, but anyway, for Kings of Baron, they saved their season basically with a roster swap, bringing taking Joking Chance from top lane, putting him support, bringing in Mowgli. It completely changed the way that they play and changed their entire season around.
It did. Going into that, they hadn't won a series yet, and since then, 4-1, with their only losses being to Sensei Squad. Is that right? I think that's right. With the
Yep.
new lineup, they still lost to Sensei Squad.
Mhm.
But since then, they really have sort of rediscover themselves, and it'll be really interesting to see if, with Mowgli in the lineup, they've had so much success. Will they be able to, with all this time playing with him, just come back and beat down the team that you know beat them last?
Yeah, the literal day of their roster swap, according to Joking Chance. So maybe not the most to read into that week 3 performance, but again, still counts. So Sensei Squad has that book. They have beaten them. It was 2-0. I I think it's a really interesting setup, and we'll see if it's a redemption for Kings of Baron or if Sensei Squad can re-cement their place as that number one team.
For sure.
In our other semifinal, we have Schme looking snazzy with the new logo, by the way. Shoutouts to Kilgar for making this. It's really cool. I really like their logo.
Yeah, do you
Um,
have like a bigger version that we could blow up to show on stream? Because that's an amazing logo.
um, Let me
If you
see.
don't, it's whatever.
I should. I just didn't know if it would open all of my photos onto stream or not. Let me pull this up really quick. Schme. This one. So, um, you can see all the champions on here. You know, the four main. mains, I guess, for Echo, Blue Ashley, Zale, and I support my team. Also gets the Bard meeps. The Potato is apparently Edforius in the top lane.
The quality logo here is they get all the names in. Honestly, this is amazing. And Kilgar made this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. And you have to think that that sort of gives them a buff coming into the playoffs, right? They're coming in with the new logo. Maybe they'll, looking a little cute today. Maybe we'll win land.
that meme didn't work out very well for scrambles. I'll just have to throw that one out there. Um, But yeah, Schmidt comes in. They have the highest game win percentage of any team in the Platinum tournament for what that matters. They defeated OGR 2-0 in week 10, but there was also a forfeit game 1, so it's really only a 1-0 with a disgusting team composition. So how much do you read into that? Meanwhile, Oklahoma Gold Rush, their only losses were week 1 to Sensei Squad and week 10 in that 1-0 to Schme. They play really aggressive. They have the highest kills per game in Platinum. This sets the stage for that rematch and maybe a little bit of redemption for Oklahoma Gold Rush.
And I almost feel like this is sort of the two best teams fighting it out in the semifinals instead of in the finals. I think both of these teams are just so strong and so formidable. Um, it's going to be really interesting. OGR, if you just look at the lineup, if in a vacuum you just showed me the players on that, I would tell you that they're the strongest team in the league. But once you actually look at the teams play together, Schme has just been so strong. And then able to take that 2-0 victory over OGR in the last week of play. We're only 2 weeks removed from that. It'll be really interesting to see if OGR is able to bounce back and show no, that was a fluke, or if Schmez able to continue their win and really show that they are better than OGR.
Yeah, and Schme seems like they have a really good idea of what they want to draft going into games, and they form coherent team compositions. Uh, in game 2 against OGR was just this disgusting poke composition. I remember earlier on in the season they played just a basic Sivir composition, but they they draft for that team comp and then they execute the team comp the way that it's supposed to be executed, and that makes them really scary.
Yeah, no, this is definitely just a team that plays extremely well together. Um, and I think that this one honestly could go either way.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. So, recapping Plat, let's get your prediction. Sensei Squad versus Kings of Baron.
God, I want to go with Kings of Baron because I've been singing the praises of Mowgli for months. The first time that they joined, I said that this is the type of player that can turn it around, and he did end up turning it around for them. But at the end of the day, I think Sensei Squad is probably the stronger team. I'm go Sensei Squad.
And then Shme versus OGR.
And again, this one's just such a close matchup, but I think I have to go with the OGR boys.
So then you have Sensei Squad versus, or no, third place game, Shme versus Kings of Baron.
And I think Schmet probably comes out on top in that one.
And your championship prediction, your 1 seed versus your 3, Sensei Squad versus OGR.
And I think that OGR is going to be the one to take it home.
So I'm actually going to just flip the book on you. I think
Okay, hit me
it's
with it.
so Kings of Baron's won 4 in a row. Sensei
Hmm.
Squad's lost 2 in a row. I think that the momentum plays such a factor going into LAN. Kings of Baron's going to come in with all this confidence. They've been playing really, really good League of Legends recently. I think the Kings of Baron are going to take it. For this 2-3 game, I think that Shmez going to have a plan, another plan to cheese out. They get 1 win, and then they just need to play even the rest of the series, right? I
Hmm.
think that that's enough. So I got Shme versus Kings of Baron in the final. I think OGR takes third place, and
Hmm.
then I th- I'm gonna go with Schmidt for the championship. Maybe I'm just too in love with their logo. Maybe it's the
The
fumes
logo
talking,
buff.
the logo buff. But yeah, I think this Schmed's gonna take the championship.
Okay, completely different there.
Yeah. So let's jump into gold then. Return of the Middle Sticks versus Unnecessary Roughness and Tastes Like Armageddon versus High Octane Gamers. I think that this might flip. I've been trying to put them in order of how they're going to be played, but I don't. I think this one might flip. Not 100% sure. So we'll start though with the white versus black battle, or white and black versus white and black, I guess. But Return of the Middle Sticks versus Unnecessary Roughness, and Return of the Middle Sticks struggled a little bit in their quarterfinal. Unnecessary Roughness did exactly the opposite of that. So, how do you see this one breaking down?
Uh, I think that for ROTM, they did really struggle against the Yellow Jackets. Admittedly, they had a lot less time to prep for them, considering they were expecting a different opponent in their quarterfinal game. That said, I think that when they really had success, it was when they were able to secure a good matchup for Maristamatic in that top lane. And through that, they were able to get an advantage there and then just play around Hulk, accelerating the rest of the map. Um, I think that if they're able to sort of take that blueprint and make sure that Hulk is able to positively impact that bottom lane with Boar, this could be, one of the strongest teams for ROTM. That said, Unnecessary Roughness has looked extremely strong, and I think it's going to be a hard matchup for them. Um, what do you think that Unnecessary Roughness needs to do to win this?
So in particular, I look at the Dillinger Swampfire combo. Um, where they're playing is kind of up in the air. That might be their solo lanes, it might be their top jungle, and that flexibility is also really scary. They have Mesner, I think is how they've gone with the pronunciation, who's played jungle for them. He's played Sejuani, I think, literally every single game. So maybe try to secure Sejuani, and just kind of see what happens from there. Both of these teams really like playing high kill, high assist, like high combative games. And it'll be interesting. I think the team that gets the early advantage in both of in the games will take it home.
Probably so. I think it's interesting that ROTM has the highest kills per game in gold, but Unnecessary Roughness has the highest assists per game in gold. And I think the assists per or in Shadow Isles, I think highest assists per game means that they really do group up early and play a lot through team play. Whereas, highest kills per game, if you don't have the highest assists, it sort of means that you're looking for a lot more of those solo kills, a lot more of those isolated plays. So it'll be interesting if our team is able to secure those against a UR team that just has such great teamwork around them. It seems like
If I'm not mistaken, RTM was the highest assists in
you're
Piltover.
ruining my
Okay, we'll
you're
we'll,
ruining my narrative.
we'll quit it then. TLM versus High Octane Gamers. Um, I think that TLM comes in as the team to beat. Basically, it's hard to argue against them. They're 10-0. They haven't dropped a game yet. They looked pretty dominant in their quarterfinal game. They're 20-3 in game score, which is just ridiculous on such a long season. High Octane Gamers is their opponent, 8-2. They're undefeated with their current roster, and that's completely undefeated in game score, 6-0 with Siren in mid. Um, how do you think High Octane Gamers manages to upset TLM?
I think that really is it, that they're looking for the big upset. And unfortunately for them, with a lot of the success that they've gotten through Cyrene, they're going up against Seymour, who's probably the premier mid laner um, in Shadow Wilds and probably in Gold. It's going to be really difficult for them, but I think that they have to find a way for Cyrene to get a lead and then play through that bottom lane, play through, uh, you know, pretty strong performers in Bug and I can't think of his fucking name right now. But their support. Sorry, I'm smooth brained.
Mexican,
But
I think, is their support.
yeah, Mexican, who had such strong performances on the Thresh in the quarterfinals. Um, Honestly, Mexican was probably the MVP for them, uh, at least in the quarterfinals games. I think trying to get a lead in mid and then play through bottom from there is probably their best shot. Try to keep Seymour down.
Yeah, for TLM, do you think that they just steamroll their way to a land championship?
I mean, you have to think that they at least expect to win coming in, right? They really are the most dominant team within gold at the moment. And I think that, unless they come in just too overconfident, I think if they play their game, if they play through Seymour, if they're able to just get the leads that they have gotten in every single game so far, I think that they have a really good shot at just taking this one home.
All right, so prediction time then. Return of the Middle Sticks versus Unnecessary Roughness.
And I think that that one probably goes to Return of the Middle Six. I think that they'll pull that one out in the end, but I do think that's a really close matchup. I think it's 2-1.
And then TLM versus Hog.
And I'd like to think that Hog might be able to pull in an upset, but unfortunately, I think TLM's just too strong, and I think that's probably going to be a 2-0 TLM.
All right, so third place game Hog versus Unnecessary Roughness.
And I think that was probably pretty close, 2-1. Hopefully, if Hog does play in the third place, we can see some extra spiciness. Since they're a pretty meme team. But I do think that UXR probably takes that one 2-1.
And then ROTM versus TLM.
ROTM versus TLM. I think that you sort of have to expect TLM to come out on top here, but I don't know. I got to go with my boys ROTM, and I think that'll be a super close matchup. But hopefully, in the end, they'll be able to pull that one out.
I'm going to decline to vote for gold, just as a heads up. I honestly think that I'm really glad that these are the four teams that we have representing gold, and I think that all four are really, really fucking good. So I'm really
Wait,
looking forward
wait.
to
I
LAN.
could decline. I could decline to vote.
Nope,
Wait.
I'm putting you on the spot. You're expert analyst here. You won the prediction game. You gotta hit us with the LAN predictions as
Oh
well.
fuck. Okay. Well,
All
there you
right.
go. I feel like you kind of. Never mind. Go ahead.
Anyway, let's see what your guys' land predictions are really quick. So in Diamond, looks like we're gonna have Unlucky Retribution with a 64 to 35 percent vote, so that's 18 to 10 over Landsnack, and then Return of the Middle Sticks gets 75% of the vote over Good Game Losers.
Yeah, and I think that one, GGL, I don't think that they've lost one yet where they've been the underdogs according to the fan voting. So it'll be really interesting to see if they're able to prove all the fans wrong, and especially since this matchup I think is a lot closer than 75 to 24.
And honestly, Hug is definitely the sleeper for the whole tournament. I mean, there's no way around that one. That one's
Oh,
fine.
definitely.
I have no problem with that assessment. Which team will win the championship? This is a pretty close vote. That's going to be a one vote difference. Return to the Middle Sticks over Unlucky Retribution, and then a pretty decent jump down to GGL and Landsnack.
Yeah, and it's Neck picking up 4 votes. I think that's definitely good for them. Um,
Platinum capped 60-40 in favor of Sensei Squad. 18 to 12 is going to be that vote total. Oh my goodness! Look at that vote total for Schmet over OGR. What?
I think that matchup is a lot closer than that
Honestly,
than
out of
that
31
indicates.
responses, I think that this is like 16-15. What is this vote total?
Jesus, everyone's sleeping on OGR. I mean, isn't OGR the team with like 4 diamond players and um, I don't know. I think OGR is pretty scary.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, and Schme, 58% of the vote will win the championship. Second is going to be Kings
Holy,
of Baron. So the 2 seed gets the highest percentage, the 4 seed with the second highest. Oklahoma Gold Rush, one person thinks that they're going to
got
win.
one vote.
That was the team that I said I was surprised didn't have any votes, but we could have made a narrative about how OGR was the scariest team coming into LAN, the one that we thought were going to win. You picked them, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, Aikato picked them. Aikato and whoever this is. I think that you guys made a smart pick, honestly. Jeez.
I mean, if that's the money we're getting for it, if that's the odds that we're being given, like I think OGR is definitely a lot closer to winning that than those votes
Yeah,
indicate.
I
Holy
would
shit.
I would take OGR at those odds every day. Oh, two, somebody else voted.
Fucking cheaters coming in,
Gold
messing with our.
gold capped. This one's really close. TLM 17 to 13 over Hog.
Wow, and Hog is the team that always brings in the popular vote. So bringing that one really close, yeah, I think that'll be a really good matchup.
Yeah, and then another really close one, 16 to 14, Middle Sticks over Unnecessary Roughness. So nobody really knows what to expect from these gold games, and I think that having the two division system, we haven't seen any of these teams play each other. We really have no idea how anybody stacks up, and it's wide open and cold.
And I think that these votes are pretty indicative of how close these teams are. All four gold teams, just to say that now, are extremely strong, and each one probably has a shot at winning it. And I think that these votes are pretty indicative of how close these teams are.
Yeah. So who will win the championship?
Oh
Looks
my
like
god.
number one is going to be Return to the Middle Sticks, 11 votes. Number two is Hog, actually, 8 votes for them, 6 for TLM, 5 for Unnecessary Roughness. But that's a pretty close spread.
Extremely close, especially when you compare that to the other, the plat and the diamond ones. I think that everyone's pretty up in the air in terms of who's actually going to end up coming out on top in that gold division.
Yeah, I'm super excited, but let's get back to a little bit of business. I'm going to go ahead and drag in our special guest here. Hopefully, he's not muted. He is muted, but is he
Oh,
going to talk? There he is.
yeah.
Hello, caller. You are on the air on the Get Recalled podcast.
Um,
Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you.
So everyone, we have I support my team, the support for Shme, joining us for the awards portion. We'll get to his portion just a little bit later, but first off, just some ground rules for these regular season awards. Um, we told voters not to take playoffs into account. All of the votes were cast in between what Sunday is when I sent them out and Friday of last week. So they might have been slightly influenced by some of the quarterfinals, but not all of them. So it was only supposed to be regular season votes. You might see a little bit of inherent bias toward playoff teams, but I think that in general, people did a good job. The votes are going to be posted in Discord following the podcast as soon as I get them all together and on a sheet that you guys can look at. So that might take a little bit of time, but we'll get them there. The voters were all team captains or league admins, um, and just people who helped out. So stats people got votes, casters got votes, admins got votes if they wanted them. Most people declined if they weren't comfortable. So for these all GRLCS teams, the all-star teams essentially, voters were asked to select the top three at each position. First team gets 5 points, second team gets three, third team gets one, and the players with the most points are awarded there. Ties are broken by the greater number of higher place votes. Basically, if you have more first place votes than the person you're tied with, then you get the spot above them. If you're completely tied, then it's listed as a tie. That makes sense?
God, yes.
Okay. Um, for most outstanding player and most valuable player, voters were asked to list their top five, and then they get points based on that. So it's 10, 8, 5, 3, 1, and then we're doing the same tiebreaker after that. And then, Jake, I'll let you talk just a little bit about your statistical MVP.
So, originally it was only supposed to be for platinum, but I had a lot of free time. So, statistical MVP is completely zero biased. I actually promise. I didn't even know 3 or 4 of the people that won it in most divisions. Basically, I took a bunch of stat categories, and we'll say we'll use vision score, right? So I took vision score for top lane, took every single top laner's vision score, averaged it out, put the average of the league, compared each one to the average of the league, and that's how they got a point. And it was weighted like that. And I did it by role, so that way, some because I had damage percent in there, so that way each role, kind of balanced out a little bit. And overall, it looks like it came out pretty good. So
Yeah, I'm pretty excited by the results. We have a little sneak peek of them. In addition, Jake will be giving away skins to the players who got first in Diamond and Gold, and also the top three in Plat. There's a couple extra rules for that we'll get to when we get to Plat. But yeah, if the computer liked you really well, you're going to get a skin. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you, Jake.
compliment.
So without any further ado, we'll get into some Diamond Awards. And where else to start but our top lane support group. And our first winner is going to be General Vici from the Iron 5.
Yeah, and General Vici was, you know, how many points did he end up getting? He got a shit ton of
He got
points. Did he?
31.
31?
Yep.
Yeah, it kind of wasn't even close. I think that he was generally the consensus there for the best top laner in the league, and he was just such a strong player there for the Iron Five throughout the entire season. He was a role transplant, playing AD carry last split, and comes in top lane and just sort of rocks it there. Um, Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the right choice. I think I put him as number one as well.
No bias for your teammate at all, but I've also had Vici at number one. He was able to play carry picks. He was able to play tank picks. He showed a lot of diversity, and um, it's it's outstanding for someone in this league. If you look even at just the other two people on the screen, Azuki and Vibon, who got second and third, both of those players pretty renowned tank players, not as strong on those carry picks. So just being able to show that diversity and show it strongly, I think generally puts General Vici ahead of everybody else.
Generally puts General Vici. No, I agree though. I think that it really came down to just he was able to play everything and just did it at a pretty high level.
All right, so drum roll for the junglers then. It's Kato, isn't it? Oh,
Probably
baited,
not.
baited. So jungle number one is going to Tendies 2 from Return of the Middle Sticks. 36 points was one of the higher point totals. I don't know if it was the highest in Diamond. I'm gonna just double check. Nope, it was second highest. That's that's a spoiler a little bit, but um,
Spoiled. God.
yeah. So Tendies, he was first in Diamond in kills and kills per game. Also pretty high up in the death chart, but you know, you live by the Tendies, you die by the Tendies.
Yeah, I think that he sort of was the penultimate carry jungler this split. He played so many different champions, so much shit out of meta. As you can see the ribbon there in the upper right. He also, I think, had a game on Evelyn. He's just plays so much weird stuff and is such a great catalyst for that ROTM team. You know, he's able to create so many leads, win so many skirmishes, and hands down, he probably was the best jungler,
Yeah,
as you can see by the points.
yeah, Koala got a pretty decent chunk of points as well at 22. And then Aikato with 8 was, I believe, the lowest third place recipient as well.
Yeah, you
Um,
know, I think it's really interesting how far that drop off is. And I think part of that is that a lot of people were pretty convinced that Tendies and Koala were the top two junglers within the league. And the other part of it is that there are several other people who picked up a lot of different votes but weren't able to, bring it in the end.
and again, we'll have the vote tallies in their entirety as well as the voting ballots themselves for you guys after the podcast. I still have to put them together, so it'll probably be a little bit longer after the podcast or maybe tomorrow, but I'll have them. Don't worry. For mid lane, um, I wasn't necessarily expecting this one in particular, but it made a lot of sense when you think about the competition. So Middlestick's Demon Print with his back-to-back first team mid lane. He was number one in Diamond and KDA. He had the fewest deaths per game of any player in Diamond as well, and he doubled up Mortally Divine in points.
Yeah, no, it was pretty resounding that people considered him the best. Really was just such a high KDA. I think that he had like 22 for the longest time, and in recent weeks he's dropped a few more deaths. I'm not saying he's a KDA player, but at the end of the day, he really has just been so consistent in that mid lane, able to put out so much damage, and has been just a massive factor in ROTM's success.
All right, and then Mortally Divine and DC Decay taking second and third. Um, so for 80 carry, this was the closest vote of any of our diamond votes, and one of the closest overall. But Rito Torchic takes it by 2 points over Tien Sama.
Yeah, and that one is sort of a surprise, I think, for a lot of players because Tien Sama coming in was sort of expected to be the best AD carry within the league. But this time around, Rito Torchic, who has been just such a massive carry and really the strongest, most consistent player for Schneck, was able to pull it out in the end. A lot of people really recognize what he does for that team. As you can see, that high CS per minute, the team funnels a lot into him, and he does pretty well with what he's given. Um, that said, Tien Sama, I think, is extremely close in that regard. I think that he's also an extremely strong AD carry. I'm glad that this one was so close, just because both these AD carries are so strong. And then Four Shot bringing up the rear there with the third place with 13 points.
Yeah, and again, you see a huge drop off between the top two and the third place. There's to spoil, it's Chris Not Chris is right behind at 8. So it's a pretty gigantic gap between Rito, Torchic, Tien Sama, and the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. That said, I think it's interesting that AD Carry was the one that received the least amount of people receiving votes, right? There were only 5, and I think that every other one had more than that. Oh, I
Top lane
suppose
also
top
had
only had
5.
5.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Unlucky.
But either way, I think that you know, definitely the top 2 are the correct top 2. Both these teams are, or both these players are extremely strong within their role.
Yeah. And then support. This one is not close. It went to Curb Stomp. He received all but one first place vote. He had all of them until the very last voter as well. He was almost the first consensus GRLCS first team pick.
Yeah,
And
so
I've been
when
doing
those
this.
votes are released, go
Yeah,
ahead and look to see who didn't think Curb was the best.
yeah. I've been doing this for 3 splits now, and Curb is the closest who's gotten to it. But he picked up 8 first place votes and a third place vote. Um, and I mean, it's tough to argue anything else. Like, the man had the most assists per game. He was one of the most active players with third in kill participation. He really set the tone for this Unlucky Retribution squad.
And I think that he's probably a lot of the reason that Tien Sama didn't get first in 80 carry. Just because when you look at it, you might think, how much of that is Tien and how much of it is Curb Stomp. I think last split, with Tien and Gavi, you could definitely see it. Tien was the solo carry, but this split, Curb Stomp has been just such a force for this UR team in that bottom lane, in lane, out of lane, with his vision control, with his team fighting, especially, even on picks like Zyro, where he's taking more of a carry role. I think that hands down, Curb Stomp has been the best support this split.
Yeah, and I just wanted to share, I'm going to leak our private communications, but after you played against Unlucky Retribution, you mentioned that it was just so impossible to initiate against Curb.
Oh yeah, I was playing Blue Cane, right? So I want to get into their backline, and just the way that he was able to consistently find me with Zyra, he's putting plants over walls, his vision control. I have a Duskblade and a Sweeper, and I'm still walking over wards. This guy is just such a monster. I definitely think that he deserves this. He's easily the best support in the league. This guy is so fucking good.
All right, so next is going to be the most outstanding player in the entire league as voted by everybody. Outstanding, again, is going to be the player that we think has the best skills overall. Meanwhile, most valuable player, which we'll get to, is the person that is most valuable to their team. So, without any further ado, the most outstanding player in Diamond is Tendies.
Which I think that is probably not too hard to argue for, right? Like Tendies was such a massive carry for his team, and then he was probably the best skirmisher within the league. He consistently was coming out on top of these early game skirmishes. He was consistently being just such a massive carry for this team. And I think he was sort of a high profile player. Everyone sort of knew how strong Tendies was. And I think it's really interesting just to see how our team has sort of swept everything so far. I don't think that they've had anyone who wasn't on a list.
Poor Lane was not on the top list.
Oh, you're right. Pybon kicked him out. Never mind. Other than Lane, right? But either way, I think that that said, the points here, I think Curb Stomp should probably be a little bit closer. I think that Curb was just such an outstanding player the entire season. That said, Tendy's coming out with the 69 points, sort of a landslide there.
Yeah, he received 6 of the 9 first place votes. The other people who received first place votes were Curb Stomp, Demon Print, and UKPX Koala. So, um, yeah, he had just a really fantastic season overall, and we'll see if he can show up at LAN and have that same performance.
Yeah, it'll be really cool, especially since all 3 of these players here are going to land and potentially could meet each other in the finals. So we'll
Yeah,
see if they're able to run that narrative in and see who the best or MOP really is.
yeah. So now your MVP of the split again by votes, and this is the person who is most valuable to their team. And that also is Tendies. And I ran out of stuff to say, so he just killed a bunch of dudes. This one was much closer though, 44 points. Torchic had 36, and General Vici had 27.
Yeah, no, he killed a bunch of dudes. I think that's a pretty accurate summation of what Tendies has done this split. And I think a lot of this probably is just because he has had such a high profile. He's sort of been, the diamond player that everyone talks about, and he just sort of swept everything this time around. That said, I think that this next Rito Torchic was such a massive uh, enabler for his team. He got the best AD carry in the league, and I think that he really was just so valuable for that team and really, almost solo carried them.
Yeah, and
Um,
and people were a lot more split on this vote. Tendies received 3 of the 9 first place votes. Torchic received 2. Curb Stomp, Tien Sama, Chris Can't Miss, and Killering all got 1. Um,
yes.
so then, Jake, if you're here, we'll go ahead and have you announce. Again, this is the MVP based on your stat.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I've got them. We're going
gotcha.
3-1
Three
on
to
this
one.
slide, and then we'll have the top 10 on the next one. So if you'll go
Okay.
ahead and announce the number 3 most valuable player according to your stat.
So number 3 for most valuable, he was a jungler, and his name is Heimerdoodles. I believe his score, yeah, 86.53. That's just, I think all of Diamond was higher than any other league, as to be expected. For second place, it was another jungler. We had Tendies. He was barely ahead of Heimerdoodles. I mean, all the top 3 were really close. And then at number 1, we had Rito Torchic. And I won't lie, I didn't know who he was when it first came out. I I saw that and I was like, I don't even know who this is. And then I realized he's the only reason Snack wins. So makes sense.
So congratulations to Rito Torchic. You'll want to contact Jake. I believe you're currently
Yes.
listed as Jana One Trick on the GRLCS Discord.
Yes, I
So
am.
go ahead and contact Jana One Trick, and you can pick out a skin of your
Any
choice.
skin, yes. No matter the cost.
Uh, so we'll go ahead and flip in our top 10 for MVP and Diamond. You can see Torchic, Tendies, Heimerdoodles, Mortally Divine picked up fourth. Tien Sama, Randy Newman, Curb, Aikedo, Azuki, Saber were the top 10.
Top laner on this list. Top laners didn't get much love, man.
Yeah, no top laner. Also, interestingly, I think is no Demon Print with his really high KDA, not able to make
I
the list.
know. Yeah.
I mean,
I was a little
if I had to speculate, it might be because of a lack of kill participation, maybe, or a lack of
yes. I'll
damage.
damage percent in
I'm not
was
saying he's
pretty
a
highly
KDA
weighted.
player, but
KP and damage percent were the 2 of the highest for mid lane that mattered the most.
yeah. So, were there coming up with the stat when you're really doing this? Were there any um, or were there any standouts that you saw that really surprised you? Um,
For what?
for any of them, in terms of like who came out on top for any roles, or I mean,
Oh,
other than I guess Rio Torchic,
it,
since you didn't know who he was.
I mean, for Diamond, Heimerdoodles, I didn't expect to see him on there, and I was really expecting to see General Vici in like the top 15, but I don't even think he made the top 15. He was like 16 or 17. Um,
Yeah, we don't want to
it's
spoil platinum or gold yet, so
yeah,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
it's funny though, because when I did the stat, I had to try to decide what was most valuable for like certain roles, because I didn't want to weight everything the same for each role. Because like supports aren't going to do more damage; they're mostly going to have like vision score and KP. And junglers, I think KDA matters for junglers a little bit in KP because I don't like junglers that didn't. That doesn't help, but it was fun.
and that's why
Wait, then
Aikedo got
how
8th.
attendees up? No,
Uh,
um,
wait, I'm pretty sure attendees and Heimerdoodles both had like the highest deaths in the league for jungle. Wait,
but they had high KP, so
oh, KPOP.
KP
um,
is pretty OP.
so we'll jump into platinum now. Feel free to stay in here, Jake, and help us out with this one because I think that.
I heard it was a mess.
So yeah, the awards were really, really close pretty much throughout, and it didn't seem like there were a whole lot of really definitive picks in Platinum, as we'll see. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Our top laner. Oh, I have a buffer slide. Cool. Platinum awards. Nice. Our buffer slide, and then our top lane pick is Rarime Reptar from Team Name here.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that one's pretty expected. I think Ryan Reptar was such a force in that top lane, especially for the team name here roster. They relied a lot on him, and he was extremely strong for them. I think it's kind of surprising that it's that close here in the for the top lane years with
I don't
Love
think
Stories coming up in second and at 40th and third. But I think Ryan Reptar, in my opinion, was probably the standout top laner.
I think he's definitely the standout, but jungle and top side of the map in platinum was definitely the best. Like the best two roles in platinum are definitely jungle top lane. So I can completely see those being like highly contested everywhere.
yeah, I think that Love Stories had a really good season as well. They moved him around a little bit at the start of the season, but he really found that home up in top lane. And um, I was kind of surprised that Love Stories didn't win it over Reptar, but the voters liked Reptar just a couple of points better. Um, so yeah, Reptar got 4 of the 8 first place votes, with Love Stories getting 3, and Ed Forius got the last one. And then our top jungler in Platinum was Sensei Squad's Water Bear.
Yeah,
That's not
which
surprising. That guy's a beast.
yeah, that guy's pretty good within his role. He's pretty good for his team. He's really an enabler for them. That said, I'm glad to see that Mowgli got some amount of recognition here, coming in second with 20 points. As he was sort of the revitalizer for that Kings of Baron lineup. You know, since he came in, he
Yes.
really turned that team around, and I'm glad that he's able to see some sort of recognition for that.
Yeah, I think Mowgli was definitely a huge part of that turnaround. Yeah, I think maybe he's a shot caller or something, but he because he plays a lot of the engaged champions for them, and it's a huge difference. They look a lot more like a team with him.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah, I
little
think
salty that Water Bear didn't play good against Team Name here, but then against us he fucking clapped us. So like, yeah, I think he picked Zen twice against us and popped off both games, and then picked it against Team Name here and like went 0-8. But
Wait, does
he
that
wins
mean the
some, you
team
lose
name
some.
here is the real Smurfs?
Well, they probably just picked Cassiopeia and grounded him, but yeah. But yeah, Team Name here, real Smurfs.
All right, our mid lane pick, also from Sensei Squad, it's going to be Midnight Slushy, able to take it down. And this one was, oh, I didn't get the points on there. I'm so boosted. He got 27 points. Dylan Rue had 24, and
Ooh,
Zale had 11. So pretty big drop off between Dylan Rue and Zale. And I think without a doubt, Midnight Slushy and Dylan Rue were the top two.
hey,
Yeah, no, and
there's
I think that the points are, there to support that as, both of these players were just so strong for their teams and really just did so much in there. I'm glad that they're seeing the recognition.
yeah. I think you might have made a mistake though. I'm pretty sure Zale's a support, not a mid laner. But I mean, yeah, he. It's not too surprising. I don't. There wasn't too many strong mids in the league. Like everyone was just clumped together. So the two that got first and second were definitely the two standouts in terms of mid lane.
Yeah,
So
in Midnight Slushy played the most Zoe, really popped off on that pick a couple of
he did.
times, and um, yeah, I think overall very deserving of the award, and congrats to him. So we'll jump in 80 carry. Somebody I think you're a little bit familiar with, but Blue Ashley actually takes it down. And again, I didn't get the points on there because I'm a bonobo. It was
Happens. It
21 points
happens.
for Blue Ashley, and then 14 for Whitest and 10 for Fargo.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Blue Ashley had an insane KDA for like the entire fucking split,
Yeah.
ending up with that 10.15. Blue Ashley was just such a massive carry in that bottom lane. I think that she's definitely probably the best AD carry there. That said, I'd like to point out that everyone laughed at me with my mid-season awards when I said that Whitest coming in would be the best AD carry in the league, and here he is. People realize that he's pretty good, and he got second here. So.
Hey, I don't know, man. He uh he pops off some games. Other games you don't even know he's on their team because the rest of their team's carrying. But
Yeah, surprised the OGR lineup filled with diamond players does pretty well in a platinum league.
come on, man.
So we'll jump into support. This was the biggest gap by far of any of the
Oof.
platinum awards, and the number one support is Jake. I don't expect you to talk about yourself too much, but
No, I
joking.
want to hear a speech. I want you
A
I want
speech?
you to, talk so much about yourself, talk about, what you did to really secure that, and how everyone's correct in voting you at number one.
I would imagine it's because I don't play champions like Lulu, and everyone else in the league plays Lulu and Nami. So I look flashier, maybe. I don't. I mean, the rest of the league, in terms of supports, you don't really feel them. Like they're doing their job for the team, but you don't notice them. They're kind of, there supporting their team, helping them out. But I think it's really awesome that Joking Chance got second. Um, that was the really awesome one to me because I think when he swapped down, we never got to play against him in an actual game, but anytime we've scrimmed that team, that bot lane is the one bot lane I hate playing against. So I really hope we don't have to play him at LAN. I don't want to
Yeah,
deal with them.
I was going to point that out as well that, Kings of Baron, both the people post switch with Mowgli going into the jungle and then Joking Chance here, who ended up swapping down to support, have received the recognition for being some of the best within their role. And it really speaks to how strong Kings of Baron have looked since that roster swap. And, I think that it's well deserved.
Yeah. Um, so then we'll jump into most outstanding player. Again, the player who people think popped off the most, and it was really, really close. But um, the slide doesn't
Oh,
change. It's
wait, it didn't change at all.
Jake. Jake got most outstanding player, 22
Oh,
points.
I didn't.
Shroom Bear and Water Bear both tied with 18
The
in second.
Bears. That's awesome.
Right, the
Bears
Sensei
are on
Squad
there.
people perhaps taking votes away from each other and making sure that they aren't able to take first.
I,
I
I. So these next two awards were a mess. I'm just gonna point
yeah.
out the voting was super all over the place. So Jake, I support my team,
Yes.
received 4 votes total. One first, one second, one fourth, one fifth for 22 points. Water Bear and Shroom Bear both received one first and one second for 18, and that's enough to tie for second in platinum.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
really surprised
comparing,
Shrimp Bear's on here for most outstanding. I
I,
like the
I
guy, but
I think it really speaks to how people came in voting. If you compare that to Diamond, right? We use the exact same scoring mechanics. Were there a similar amount of votes? Relatively similar.
Mhm.
Um, but either way, like in Diamond, Tendies is first with 69 points and second is 32, right? And you
yeah.
look at this, and it's like, wait, the highest got 22, and the next up are 18, 18. I think that there were a lot of people who could have made a contention for the top of this board, and I think a lot of people just came in voting
Yeah.
voting with different
Yeah.
mindsets,
I think
perhaps.
Plat's definitely a mess though. I think for like these two awards, like there's so many people that you could put in the top 3 like for both of them because each team had at least one player you could put on this list and some teams had 2 or 3, so it felt didn't really feel like there was one above the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our most valuable player then actually was a little bit more separated, but the player most valuable to their team was Water Bear from Sensei Squad.
I can agree with that one. They live and die by the bear.
Kind of funny that both Bears were in the top three for MOP, but MVP, everyone sort of decided that Water Bear deserved. But again, just 28 points here. Second coming in with 20 and third coming in with 17. These were really close. That said, I think that Water Bear, Dylan Rue, and I support my team are pretty good picks for this. That said, I think OGR squad is extremely strong. I'm kind of surprised that it's Dylan Rue who comes out on top there.
Yeah,
That's
if you're wondering, the 28 points is 2 first place votes and a second place vote.
hmm
And then Dylan Rue received 2 first place votes, and that's it for 20.
And that's enough in plat.
And then I support my team also had 3 separate votes, but unfortunately they were 2 seconds and a fifth. So 17 points for him.
Yeah, but I guess that sort of just speaks to how perceived close everyone is within this league, with everyone just having a different read on who was, so valuable to their team. It makes it for really close voting.
Yeah. So next, I just wanted to set this aside, but for Platinum, uh, Jake will be giving away skins to the top 3 players. But there's different conditions. If you're third, you can pick a 975 skin or less. Second can pick a 1350 or less, and the first place can pick whatever they want. So,
yes.
um, showing a little bit of plat favoritism here.
I wonder why.
Perhaps
Wonder
because
why.
he plays in it and created the stat for them. No, probably not. Probably not that.
Probably not that one.
Yeah, I will say originally when he proposed it to me, he was just going to do platinum only, and the rest of them, I was hoping just to get stats for, and maybe like I didn't expect him to want to give away a skin, but very charitable here, giving
Yeah.
out.
Got to give back to the community.
So, um, yeah, it's the same thing as last time. So 3-1. If you'll
Three
go
to
ahead and
one.
announce the number 3 player for plat.
The third one was I don't think he got any love at all. I think he was number third on the top lane. It's Ed Forius at number 3, and he really really is a backbone of our team. I think he flies under a lot of people's radar, but he did get a pentakill this split. I think he was one of only two pentas. I think there was a Master Yi that got a penta this season as well.
Think so. Maybe
With
maybe
the
while he had
Kale,
a diamond player
I
playing
think
AD
I think
carry
he had a
for him.
Kale ADC and a Taric and a Lulu, but second was OGR Trotalor, the jungler for OGR, and God, I want to say he only played 9 games this split, but you felt him in every single one of them, and he's definitely a huge impact for that team. And then the first place one was actually Fargo. The ADC from Kings of Baron was taken first on that one. Um, it really makes sense when you look at it. Mowgli does a lot for the team, but Fargo's like the main carry. He's the one that puts out all the damage. And I don't ever want to lane against that guy. Please send him to third place match, Sensei Squad.
So I
Thank
actually
you.
have a little history with Fargo from League KC, and the dude was a monster. He literally hadn't played Twitch before, and his team locked it in for him. And then they won, and then he proceeded to pick Twitch every single game after that, and went
Mhm.
undefeated on it. I think it was like an 11-0 streak or something like that with Twitch.
Yeah, the dude's scary, man. The dude's scary. And if you think it's rigged for 80 carry players now, wait till you see gold.
So,
So
sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to, looking at the actual point values here, we
Hmm.
saw Diamond was up around
80s.
89 first place or
Yes.
86?
It was
Um, 87?
87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think causes the difference then between like the
Um,
point values? Because isn't this?
so I will
Go ahead.
say, so part of it's going to be vision score. Part of it's going to be probably a lower KP. I know there was a lower KP overall in platinum than there was in diamond. And then KDAs were a lot lower in diamond or in platinum as well. But
Mhm.
like I took one pro player. It was God, it was when Bjergsen won that MVP split, and he was like almost unanimous MVP. And
Mhm.
I ran his stat against like the diamond players, and he was at 115.
Oh
So
Jesus.
that's like the so that's I would say a lot of the stats kind of just like how the average is. So
Mhm.
the averages also could have been closer, like because platinum was a lot closer overall, so a lot of players were closer to the middle average.
Okay.
Whereas in diamond there was specific standout players.
So just to go over top 10 for Platinum, but Fargo Trotalor, Edforius, I Support My Team got fourth. Love Stories, Midnight Slushy, Ethereum, Blue Ashley, Mowgli, Black GT0, rounding it out.
Good old
What
black
if this
GTO.
really is rigged? I support my team getting fourth. Come on.
Yeah, I think it's my
That's high
vision
enough to
score.
be recognized, but not high enough that you have to gift
Uh,
yourself something.
my
I
vision
respect
score was like 70 above second place support. so so
Okay.
All right, so we'll jump in then. Next is going to be our Bilgewater Awards, and we'll get a little bit of a drum roll on this first one because this first one is the one that Aikedo got some shit for at midseason, right?
Hmm.
And I continued to receive shit from throughout the rest of the 6 weeks, so that's pretty cool. But number one top laner in Bilgewater is Hog Hunter. Built that one up for you.
Huntera, the guy who was too scared to play against the real top laner, ROTM Marismatic coming in second there. He role swapped to jungle just to avoid playing against the best top laner in the league. But yeah, no, either way, I think that's
No,
pretty
I
indicative
think
of the
I think
top two.
Huntera should definitely deserved it. The dude had the most kills in among top laners. He was a force up there, and generally speaking, I think that the top laners weren't super great in Bilgewater overall. Reverend jumping in at number 3 had kind of a bounce back split. I'm kind of surprised Michael Cox wasn't higher on everybody's list, but that's maybe more personal experience against him than anything else. Um, but yeah, Huntera definitely deserved that. And again, kind of highlighting there's a big gap between the top 2 and everybody else in Bilgewater.
Yeah, pretty massive gap there, and I think that's really interesting. But yeah, no, either way, I think that this is pretty pretty indicative of the top.
And I actually transcribed it wrong. I had 23 and I put down 21. Oh well, shorting myself 2 points. Give everybody
Just like
else.
you've been doing the whole split, right? Just selling
Yeah.
yourself a little short. That's okay.
Um, and then Jungle. I don't. There's no need for fanfare here. Hulk received all but one first place vote again. Um, he was. I, Selfishly, I think he's the best jungler in the league in gold overall. In platinum now. You
I
know,
agree.
he finished first among junglers in assists. I had to stretch to find some stats for him, but yeah. Pasta Boy and As Devs Intended picked up second and third.
Yeah, I think this one is pretty not unsurprising, right? I think that everyone sort of expected Hulk to come out on top. Those fucking ROTM junglers, am I right? They sort of end up on top, him and Tendies.
Jesus, man.
But
Yeah.
either way, just a reminder that we're posting all the votes after this, so hunt down who didn't vote him as number 1 and go whoop some ass. But
Yeah. Also worth noting, the person that left him off of the first place ballot also left him off the ballot entirely. Didn't think he was top 3. So kind of interesting. Mid lane, Wing Nation takes it in a pretty tight vote. 25 points for him, 18 for Revan Christ, and Tall Guy got 15.
and I think this one should be a really tight vote. You know, Wing Nation was so great this season. That said, Revan Christ was also just a massive carry for maximum effort, almost solo carrying them to playoffs. And I think that I'm glad that both these teams are, or both these players are receiving the recognition that they deserve in that lane.
Yeah. Dude is a monster. He plays literally everything, and that's kind of
Yes.
scary. Um, all right, 80 carry is going to be the closest position in Bilgewater, and by 4 points, Boar Rider Man takes it home over Hogbug 7. And I apparently didn't put Static Senpai's name. I just called him G5. I feel really bad now.
Man, is this rigged? Is this rigged or is this just a super team?
I mean, isn't Static Senpai just synonymous with G5? I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um, But no, I think Boar Rider, man, he really has been just a massive carry in that bottom lane. He's the extremely feast or famine player, but this season he really was just almost feast the entire way, and really just a strong player. And I think he definitely deserved to be at the top there.
yeah. Worth noting, so Boar received 3 first place votes and 4 second place votes for a total of 27 points. Bug received 4 first place votes, so actually one more first place vote, only 1 second, and then got left off of more ballots. So he got left off of 4 ballots, whereas Boar was only off of 2. So
Okay.
that was
So more
the
people in general
yeah,
recognized how good Boar was, um, whereas the people who did recognize Bug thought he was higher up. It seems.
yeah. And then our support, uh, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but it's going to be Chex Mixin, also from Return of the
Wait,
Middle Sticks.
This is rigged. Is this a super
this is
team or is
rigged.
this?
What the fuck?
Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
But
um,
no, I think that um, there were a lot of actually, in my opinion, really strong supports in this league. I think that you could make an argument for any of the top 5 or 6 being, near number 1. But Chex coming out on top, she had a diversity of picks and looked really strong in that dual lane with Boar. I think that it definitely makes sense that she's at the top here.
yeah, I think it's also interesting. The people who finished 2 through 4 all had 14 points, and like there wasn't any way to determine third place because they had the exact same vote totals. So, Vid and Glitter both sharing third place there.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of indicative of how close the support pool was. And either way, all of these are really strong support players. But Chex comes out on top, and RTM swept everything except for top lane. So
Yeah, boosted
come
top
on,
lane,
Maris, you need to.
honestly. So most outstanding player now, again, player who people think had the best skills in Bilgewater, goes to Hulk. I think
Hulk
again, not surprising, but
followed up closely there by
Hulk,
Wing Nation, and
Hulk
then
for
Hog
MVP.
Huntera. Or Hunter, is it Hunter or is it Huntera?
I think everybody's just gone with whatever they're feeling at the time.
Mm-hmm. Either way, I don't think anyone's particularly surprised. Hulk was just an insane player this season. And so was Wing Nation. I think both these really deserve to be at the top. And those RTM players, man, right? They're all fucking smurfing.
I like that Hulk for MVP carried him to most outstanding.
Yeah,
He's not going to win MVP. Watch.
yeah. So we'll see.
Spoilers, God.
Did
I,
did the buttons pay off? Did he get
I'm not
enough
you.
votes to make it MVP?
I
The
hope
correct
so.
answer, yeah, he actually did.
Yes, Hulk for MVP, baby. Now I get my button. Worth.
Yeah, I ran out of stats for for this slide, but Hulk, much like Tendy's, pretty much sweeps the
Come
awards
on.
in Bilgewater.
Didn't buy items in
Yeah.
quarterfinals. That's
And
what you could have put.
Still won the
number,
game, didn't need him.
yeah, it's who needs items, dude? They're overrated. When you're just that fucking good, it doesn't matter. Number 2 and number 3 on this list were Evan Kreis with 38 points and then Xander Vestora with 27. Um, so I think both those players were extremely strong for their teams, and I'm glad that they saw the recognition there. That said, Hulk, of course, Hulk and Tendies, man, RTM junglers are fucking insane.
Um, so yeah, now we'll go into the stat again. The person who gets first on the stat is going to get a skin. And again, it's 3-1 if you want to go ahead and tell us who got third, Jake, or do we lose him?
Did Jake die?
I think he was coughing. We'll wait just a second for him to come back. Hopefully, he didn't lose power.
Rip Jake.
Rip Jake. All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and award them then. Yeah. So number 3, for Bilgewater. Oh, he's here.
Great.
He made it
Are you
back.
there?
That timing for dying was perfect, huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
Okay.
Good.
So go ahead and read number 3 for us then.
Number 3. Sadly, Hulk for MVP can't carry him past third on this list. So love him, but he's only number 3 here. Number 2 is a big surprise to me, and that was Xander of Astoria was number 2 on the MVP list. The stat does favor some of the best players in the worst teams, so that makes sense. Good for him. And then number 1 was actually Boar Rider Man. So yeah, right. I guess when you only feast all season, you get a pretty good damage share. So
And are we going to see the points then on the next slide?
Yep.
yes,
There.
you should.
Okay.
It's pretty
And
close.
that's super close with 2, 3, 4, and 5 all within decimal points of each other. But yeah, that's
Yeah, and Boar almost a point and a half above Xander of Astora is kind of a pretty decent gap for the top of that list. I'm kind of surprised Ace Ben showed up there number 4 on that support for G5.
Yeah,
I
man.
think Acepen was kind of criminally slept upon as
Really was.
especially with the voting for best support within his conference. I think that he definitely could have been an argument for being up near the top, and just missed out by a couple votes. But seeing the recognition here as the computer agrees that he's a pretty good player.
That
Yeah,
drop off was pretty big too, between 7 and 8.
between Wing Nation and Revan Christ, which was an argument that was being had for mid lane.
Yeah, the
Kind of
computer
interesting.
Drop off.
showing that we voted the right way, with Wing Nation coming out on top and Revan
Yeah.
Christ following
Also,
up.
worth noting, all 4 of my teammates made it. I didn't. Unlucky.
Do we know how high you were on it? Were you
you
near?
were you were number 14. So
Okay,
14.
it's
you
a
were right
little bit
there,
of a
man.
little bit of a rigged stat, I guess.
Yeah, how much did our team pay you?
Not much. Not enough,
Enough
man.
to afford all the skins, I suppose.
Yeah. Yep. 15,000 RP.
I missed a game to stat pad. Oof,
Yeah,
that's true.
maybe.
Shadow Isles then. Our top laner from Shadow Isles. Oh, let me click this sheet so that I have more numbers. Okay, our top laner is going to be from UXR. It's Dillinger, who got 31 points and had a pretty significant drop off down to Video Gamer 69 there in second. But um, Dillinger played a lot of different picks, really shone through on that Alawi, and I think that he's probably the most intimidating top laner from Shadow Isles.
Definitely, and we'll see the matchup between top 10 top laner Marishmatic and Dillinger next week, or this weekend, I guess.
Yeah, after
Um,
just seeing it against Video Gamer 69 last week. So.
yeah, just running the gambit here. But either way, and then if they go to finals against TLM, like it could actually be a pretty good storyline. The casters are taking notes. Um,
I
but
don't know
either
that
way,
any of the casters actually watch the podcast, to be honest.
I mean, who does watch the podcast,
Right,
right?
honestly.
Podcast too scuffed. Anyway, Dillinger was a heck of a top laner and kind of a blowout here in terms of points. You know, pretty massive drop off here from 31 to 15. I think that sort of speaks to how strong Dillinger was, and I think you're right. Intimidating is a good word for him, as he was just extremely good there in the top lane. Ended up picking up 5 first place ballots there, and pretty deserved.
Yeah, so we'll jump into jungle, and yeah, it's going to be TLM's Panther 553,212 coming in. He
Wait,
had
is that one too many numbers? Is
no.
that the right? Oh, okay,
that-
sorry.
I've had to type his name so many times at this point. It's right. It's right. Uh,
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
he's the first among non-supports and assists, fifth in KDA. He beat Swampfire by just 3 points for the top jungle spot.
Yeah, so close there, but Panther is such a facilitator for that team. Really showing up there in the KDA, in the assists, and for a really strong TLM team, he's a really strong jungler. And yeah, that said, Swampfire extremely close, and then kind of surprisingly enough, SEAL Team Six's I'm Heimel. I think he's definitely a really strong player, and I'm glad that he received some recognition here.
Yeah, Panther. From personal experience, this is past splits. We haven't played TLM, obviously. They're in the other conference, but you you feel Panther a lot when you play against them because he's just not on the map, and then all of a sudden you see a bandage or you see just the Zac indicator, and you know that all of a sudden your whole team is just gone and there's nothing that you can do about it, and you can just feel his presence and his shot calling on the map. Haven't played against Swampfire yet. I don't know if it's the same. I hope not, because my god, is Panther tough to play against. He only plays like 4 champions, but they're all really difficult to lock down like that.
hmm
um Yeah, so we'll jump into mid lane, and I think to nobody's surprise, it's going to be Seymour from Tastes Like Armageddon.
Seymour was just a monster in that mid lane. We've been seeing his praises every week for a long time, and just seeing the recognition here. 39 points. Following up behind him was Yobera with 14, and then Dr. Siggy Wiggy with 9. A massive drop off as everyone just sort of unanimously thought that Seymour deserved to be at the top there.
Yes,
That said, I'm glad to see Yobero here. The guy's a monster. Really one of the massive carries for SEAL Team 6, and I'm glad that he's seeing the recognition there.
yes, 7 of the 9 first place votes for Seymour. He was on every single person's ballot. In some regard, the 2 that didn't vote him first, he got 1 second and 1 third. So definitely deserving of it. His Cassiopeia is really monstrous, and he'll be a pretty big force at the LAN tournament, and one that
Yeah.
it'll be difficult for other players to figure out. So we'll jump in 80 carry. We're going to see some different colors for a little bit, but not that different because it's Goosey from UXR. uh, so Goosey got 20 points. Levi's down there at 16. Um, Levi's and No Mind both tied at 16, and then January got third at 13.
Wait, wouldn't that put January at fourth?
Yeah, but I chose to do it this way. So
Okay, I respect it. I respect it. Uh,
mostly because I was surprised the top kill leader in Shadow Isles got 4th in AD carry voting.
And I think that's sort of surprising. I think people kind of slept on Junior. I think Junior was a massive carry for that Yellow Jackets team, and even if they didn't have as quite as great of a split as we might have expected them to, I think that their personal performance was extremely impressive there from January. That said, Goosey up at the top and TLM Levi's in second. I don't think anyone's going to be particularly surprised. And then No Mind coming in, trying to nab away that position. And I think all three of those 80 carries are just so strong. I think it really speaks to how strong Shadow Owls was from the 80 carry position.
Yeah, I think all 4 of these guys are monsters. Even throw in a couple of the people even further down, Siverme Timbers and Paladin. Even Alarm on and Gar of the Sand, like literally every single 80 carry in Shadow Isles is really good. But
Yeah.
Goosey going to be the top of the pack. I think it's interesting, a lot of Caitlyn between him and Levi's, and showing up on those kind of longer range marksman style picks.
hmm And perhaps showing that, just being able to get enough of an advantage in lane is enough for them to take over a game. And really just impressive play out of the whole split from all these players.
Yeah, I really love that nobody remembers what they voted for. Like nobody wrote it down or put thought into it. I guess they just submitted their ballots and it's gone. That's it. All I'm thinking about. Our support then um, for Shadow Isles, and the biggest gap uh, of anybody in Shadow Isles goes to Silver Spade 10. Um, the one trick Morgana. Can I say that? He played 10 games of Morgana during the split, which was the
You'd
most of
think,
anybody in any division on one single champion.
I think at some point you would say, maybe we should give him, take him off of that, make him play something else, because TLM just winning so often, and a lot of it is through Silver Spade on that Morgana. That said, it's not like he only plays one champion. He's still extremely good on so many others, and really, I think definitely a lock for that first place. I think it makes sense that he's here. Just such a strong player. Um, And then the Exister coming in as second from 0 AP with 18 points. And then GMB's L Big Daddy 28. Third place with 8 points. I guess that one's sort of surprising to me, but, with a first place vote coming from somewhere and then a second place vote, that's enough to get him into third there.
Yeah, people asking where UXR support is. Duvranga got 4th. He had 5 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, first in assists, second in KDA, 6th in kill participation. That's pretty good stats for single player. And
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you want to draw parallels to other leagues, I think that in Bilgewater, Hulk was sort of considered a standout jungler, and Tendies was considered a standout jungler for Diamond. I think Silver Spade just is the standout player here, just in the support position. It's just that's how dominant that this player has been.
So most outstanding player, also not particularly close, which surprised me just a little bit. But most outstanding player in Shadow Isles is also Silver Spade, 57 points compared to 26 for Seymour.
Some rigged right there. Top
Uh,
three,
top
all the
three
same.
all TLM. Yeah,
Definitely kind of surprising that TLM kind of swept that whole thing. But that said, they really did look like the best team. And a lot of their players look like the best within their roles. And Silver Spade coming out on top here with 57 points, I think it's well deserved.
yeah. So our most valuable player, again, player who is judged most valuable to their team, is also Silver Spade. This
Oh
one was a
man.
lot closer.
Oh
He
man.
beat his teammate by 4 points, and then Goosey sneaks in at 19 points for third.
Yeah. So was the only one with different results for MVP and MOP
Plat.
Platinum?
Was platinum. There were
Yeah,
Yes.
some really
everyone else got
close. Yeah,
sort of swept.
there were some close votes, but everything else did get swept. So, um, yeah, Silver Spade had just a monstrous split. He did play a lot of other champions other than Morgana. Basically, played them all once. Um, but he had really good games on Pike and Thresh and Bard, and he's really difficult player to navigate. And you combine that with Seymour and Panther, and you can see why they had such a monstrous undefeated season.
Yeah, definitely. And they're really receiving the recognition for that as just being so dominant. Yeah, and I think it's a well-deserved positions here.
All right, so hopefully I put this in right. I did. Good. So our statistical most valuable player, if you want to go ahead and read off number 3 for us, Jake.
Okay, number 3 was Marco Flavo. I didn't know who that was either initially. I think I asked you, Maris, who that was.
So I didn't really know who that was either, but then
Wait, come on. Is he
so
support for
no, he's an
GMB?
80 carry for
Oh, 80 carry.
He's the
for
ADC.
GMB,
But if you
and
actually look at the stats, he's like hard popping off.
yet
So
dude was a monster. He had one bad game in the games that he got to play,
that was
and
against TLM.
it was against TLM. He went like
Yeah.
1-6 or 2-6 on Caitlyn. Other than
Yeah.
that, literally didn't have a bad game. And
And yeah, the
so
best part is he's only zero point 0.02 below second place. If he didn't have that one bad game, he might have actually been first.
And
But
to be
second.
fair, GMB sort of came in and rebranded halfway.
Yeah,
So,
they did.
and at that point, they were almost out of the playoff running. So, who was keeping tabs on it? But obviously, we should have been because Marco Flavo was a beast for them.
Yeah. Second was Seymour. He was only 200ths above Marco Flavo. So he's right there. But Seymour was definitely a beast of a mid laner for them. And number 1, once again, Silver Spade sweeping over here. And I think he had a huge point gap too. I'm pretty sure it's like a
yeah,
whole 3 points almost.
2.994 points over Seymour.
It's almost like he got Morgana every game.
But it's really interesting that they lined up this well from the stat to what people voted for outside of Marco Flavo. I think that the rest was
Yeah.
a lot of faces that people sort of expected as the TLM boys continuing to represent.
Yeah, and it just
That
shows how
drop off.
stacked the 80 carry position was. We
Yeah.
didn't even mention Marco Flavo and leave it to Wally, yet here they are. Plus, you
Yep.
throw in Goosey No Mind in January, and like half of that's 6 out of the top 10.
The best part was the number 1 junglers at 10th. The so if you count all junglers, Jervil was actually the 4th best jungler in all of Gold
Oh,
from
the
both
guy who
divisions.
executed to his red buff was the fourth
Yeah,
Shadow
I,
Isles.
I don't know. Maybe ADC and support is the strong in Gold, but wow.
Maybe that speaks to maybe Bilgewater's the stronger conference.
Jesus. Yeah,
Or
man.
maybe they had easier. Maybe you got free stat pad games against AVRM and UCO or something. I'm not really sure.
I mean, for Shadow Isle, the rest of UR was 11, 12, 13, and 14. So,
Wow, you are just outside, but still
uh,
such a strong team there. Them and
yeah.
TLM sort of, been just so massive within this.
I never
Y-
realized that 13-point gap, though, from 1st to 10th.
It's pretty nutty.
Yeah.
Sort of a massive drop off here in Shadow Isles.
Yeah. So again, if you finished first, so that's Silver Spade Boar, who was Rito Torchic, or
Rita
top
Torchic, yes.
3 in platinum,
Rita,
contact Jake and you can get a skin. So,
Rita Torchic wants that Battle Academia skin,
oh,
So
I believe.
does this mean that statistically speaking, Bilgewater players are superior to Shadow Isles players?
So what it means is the top players are, because if these scores are this high, it means the average was really low, except
I
for
wonder.
ADCs because they were all like right in the middle. But
I
like I
wonder
know
if you average like the
the
amount
golds
for
together.
each team or everyone together, like everyone within the league, like what the average score is.
I did mention I could do that. Oh, the average score of the league. I mean, I
Yeah,
know the
and then like
average score of
compare.
each. I know the average score of each league.
Oh, really?
Like Shadow Isles, the average score was 62.
Hmm.
Bilgewater, the average score. Let me pull it up. It was 65. The average score of Diamond was 75, and the average score of Platinum was 68.
Okay, so Bilgewater then mathematically better than Shadow Isles. It's been solved here.
Well, that just means the league itself was better. The
Exactly.
top
The league
players in
as
the
a
Getter
whole
League.
was just that much better.
And then you got TLM. So, oh man.
all right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast this week. This was it's a huge investment of time for everybody involved when we do something like this. So I wanted to shout out both of these guys in the chat, Aikido, for helping put the voting sheets together and helping me keep my sanity while I was tallying everything and getting the slide set up. And thanks, Jake, for making this stat. This is honestly a really cool
Oh,
statistical
it took
analysis of everything. And
took about 10 hours a week, but I mean, I had a lot of free time on my train rides, so wasn't too bad.
Well, I
but yeah,
appreciate the effort that you put in. I think it's such a cool stat and such
Yeah.
a way to, evaluate all these players from an objective standpoint. I think it's
It
really
was fun.
interesting. Yeah.
Silver Spade's stat page was so nice that was took me like 3 hours with Silver Spade.
or
I didn't have to
Silverhammer.
go hunting. Oh yeah, fuck me. Yeah, Silver Hammer.
Silverhammer. Shout out to
It's
him.
because he removed me. I forgot his name.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's okay though. I understand.
Anyway, that's gonna do it here for us. We'll see you guys at LAN. I'll be there. Jake will be there. Aikido may or may not be there. We'll see.
You better be there, Aikido.
Mm, I don't know, man.
I'll
We'll
gift
see.
you a skin.
We'll see. Maybe.
I got 15,000 RP, man, just for gifting skins.
Jesus Christ, 15,000?
Well, if everyone bought a 3150 skin, that's how much I would need. So,
Oh my god.
so assuming they don't, I'll probably give it to second and third place
I
too.
didn't realize you were rich, man.
I mean, that was one paycheck down the drain.
Jesus Christ.
Well, actually probably half a paycheck.
He's
but,
really counting on the prize money from Platinum.
Oh, I'm not at all. If I win, I still wouldn't be making money with the plane ticket.
Yeah, I think we feel that uh, driving down even it's a little rough, but
Yeah.
it's well worth it. If you guys didn't make it and are able to go to the LAN, I would highly recommend it. Also, shout outs to the league as a whole. Basically, thanks
Yes,
for allowing us to play. If you guys
love you
want to
guys.
support GetRECalled, you can subscribe to the Twitch channel. You can donate money to the Twitch channel. You can also buy things from the merch store. I think they're still running a 10% discount code right now. So, um,
Oh, I
yeah.
got one more thing.
Oh,
Just the first person to message me gets the skin. That's all. I'm done.
all right.
Kato, come on, man. You didn't even give him a chance.
No, that's
They're delayed. You didn't even give him a chance.
You're right.
first person not named Aikido to
That was
message him.
great, dude.
That's crazy. What the fuck?
Anyway, thanks everybody for
Oh,
watching.
that was awesome.
We'll see you guys Saturday at the LAN. If you
Mhm.
can't make it, you can follow along on this channel and also Get Wrecked 2. And then next Wednesday, I think we're gonna try to do a podcast kind of recapping the whole season. Maybe share some pictures and some memories, and hopefully have a good end to the split. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you on Saturday.